Hi, I'm Steven. I'm here with Tiffany, Jim Jam, and Erock. We are Just Got Played, and we are gaming through themes. So what does that mean? Well, the theme is essentially the subject of the game. You know, what is it about? What are the actions that you do? What is the art? Things like that bring out the theme in a game. And today we're going to talk about the theme horror. Now, personally, I don't think I've ever been scared by a board game, so I am sure we'll all have different takes on horror as a theme. But you know what? Let's just get right into it. And let's start with JJ. What is your first choice for your favorite horror-themed board game?
I actually don't need to go to the judges on this one. I know everybody's surprised. I've been out and I've been talking to the judges. I didn't need to call them today, but I'm very sure these fall into the category of horror. I looked it up on Board Game Geek, so apparently it qualifies. So my first game is probably controversial in the name because they couldn't get the trademark, but it's called Friday the 13th. Not Jason. I think it's called The Stalker or something like that, but they couldn't get the license, so it's called Friday the 13th. Apparently that wasn't trademarked, but yeah, you can't call it like Jason Kills Everybody. But the Stalker, or whatever it's called, goes around and you can't see who is controlling the person. You can see the person who's controlling. It's like a DM, but you can't see where they are. So it's kind of, I don't know if anybody knows about Jason. We're just going to call it Jason because that's what it is. Apparently he developed some ability to teleport during his time when he was going around Lake. Don't tell me I know what it is. I can't. It's going to come to me in the middle of this in my explanation. I know it's pretty bad because it's a classic. But anyways, when he was going around the lake at the campground, killing people, he developed the ability to teleport. So the stalker person, not Jason, is going around the board and you can see your characters moving around the lake, but you are trying to like accomplish a goal, turn on some generators. I don't know. I play a lot of horror games like Dead by Daylight and all this stuff. So it's the little hunting around the board type of thing. There's a lake and then you can move spaces and everything. The crazy, scary part is you can't see where not Jason is. So you're trying to complete your goals as a group and you are trying to get out of the lake area before the not Jason comes and kills you. So I thought it was very scary, especially when I played it because the person that was controlling not Jason was a very good DM. They DM for D&D, and then of course they just kind of brought that over to this game. And it was very good because of the person that was controlling, not Jason, was very entertaining, and it was very thematic as far as I was concerned. Because if you watch Jason, the Friday the 13th movies, and get into the lore and everything like that, and then play the video games, there's an actual Friday the 13th video game, and of course, like I said, Dead by Daylight. The games are very thematic, and it felt like that in a board game form. Because in the video game, Jason can actually teleport. That's one of you can control Jason, he can actually teleport. So not being able to see where the not Jason stalker character is in the board was very creepy to me. I don't remember when I played it. It probably was around Halloween, I think. So that even added to the creepiness of it. But very thematic game. If you like the feel of a co-op trying to survive, your survival and getting murdered, while as a co-op, is shocking. I know everybody's very shocked I played a co-op, but it was very thematic. So I played it and it was enjoyable. So Friday the 13th, not Jason, but it is Jason with his powers, everything except for the name. His mom wasn't there. I think they even call it the stalker's mom's sweater. I don't know if anybody knows anything. Anybody? Okay, good. I don't know. I'm not getting any confirmation. Oh my God. Yes. So yeah, I'm not a big thriller person, but I like the backstory of all of it. I've played the Nintendo game like Friday the 13th. So I thought it was great. The Friday the 13th board game. And it was made by the same company that did, I know Fury of Dracula was in the poll. So the same company made the game. So it's similar to Fury of Dracula. As many of our subscribers know, because they voted for it. Somebody voted for it in the poll. So Friday 13th.
Yeah, there's actually a few board games that are sort of slasher games. Is there one called Camp Grizzly maybe? And then there's Final Girl for sure. I know that's a slasher.
I think Camp Grizzly is based off of it. I don't know how it plays any different, but this one you're Jake. The person's Jason. That's what they are. It's Friday the 13th. You got the lake and everything's the same. And yeah, but it's great. Very thematic. Actually liked it as a co-op.
And
I think we played this at Ben and Joyce's house, babe. I was thinking we played it too. It sounded familiar.
Yeah.
And it's not based at Camp Crystal Lake. It's somewhere else.
There it is, Crystal Lake. I was thinking
I was
Silver
waiting
Lake.
for
I
him
was
to
like,
come
that's
up
not
with it,
right.
but,
That's not
you know,
right. So
yeah.
there you go.
Moving on, whatever.
All right. Well, it is interesting, though. I think you hit on a lot of elements that are common in horror games. I think a lot of them co-op is one of the things that you find a lot, right? It's like you against the game, a group of you against the game. And then I also think you find a lot of hidden movement, right? Fury of Dracula has hidden movement. I think Nemesis has hidden movement. I think there are a lot of games that have.
Yeah, they're climbing in the ducts. It's the whole, not aliens thing. So they're climbing in the ducts. It was just really scary when you can't see and they're like teleporting all over the map. And all you see is like,
there's only so many ways you can thematically impart horror to a game, and hidden movement is a good one. All right, cool. Well, let's move on to Tiffany. Tiffany, what have you got for us?
All right. So my number one game is not the best horror game by any means. It's just my favorite because it's going to always hold a place in my heart. And it's a game that I played when I was early in the hobby. I had just become a teacher, and one of the characters in this game was a teacher. And if she could go around to the different parts of the town, and she could go through and search for items. And when she found books, she became even more powerful. She wasn't that great to begin with, but the more books she got, the more powerful she became. And she could really tear into some bad guys. And so I always had a great time with that. And I can never remember the game name, so I have to look. But the game is A Touch of Evil. So it's about this town that has a dark secret, and you are going through the town trying to find clues and build up your resources so that you can confront the evil power source that's taking over the town. And you have to find out which elders are innocent in all of this and which elders have gotten their hands dirty, and you kind of have to solve the clues as you go along. It's a really fun game. It's not super heavy. It's not super complicated. It's just a lighthearted, silly game. And it's pretty, does not take itself too seriously. It's a simple game. It's not a simple game, but it's a pretty simple game. But it's got the horror theme laid on, and you've got the big dumb guy that goes around and punches people's face in, and then she got the old guy with the gun. And you got all the tropes are showing up in the game, so it doesn't take itself too seriously. But it's always going to be probably my favorite horror game, just because it meant so much to me when I was getting into the hobby early on, and I identified with my character so much, and I had so much fun playing it. But yeah, and it is a co-op, so it fits into that as well. My next game that I'm going to talk about is not a co-op, but this one is.
Who is the publisher on that? Is that Flying Frog company?
Flying Frog. Yeah.
I think is The Last Night on Earth also one of their games?
Yes.
Yeah,
Last Night on Earth is. So the Something Wicked and The Dark Coast are both expansions for this that they put out. But then I've got a lot of Flying Frog over there, so they got some other stuff.
Yeah, I feel like they did a little bit of horror. The Last Night on Earth also showed up as a highly regarded in our People's Choice poll, so that's why I mentioned it. All right, cool. Erock, what have you got for us?
So I have to tell you, when this concept was brought up for this list, my initial reaction was, yeah, that's not my bag. I'm probably not going to do that. And honestly, I'm not a big fan of horror. But then I kind of just, ruminated on it a little bit. There's some good games in this space. I'm not a fan of horror, but there are some good games in this space. And, and I don't know, just the way I think and stuff, I don't even really think of them as being horror while I'm playing them, because it's more like if it's like Arkham Horror style, it's I'm like, all right, the mission is to defeat the big bad one before time expires. I'm like, okay. And then I'm locked in. I'm like, it's not like this big scary, I'm just locked in on the, what are we doing and how are we doing, that kind of a thing. So, but so for my first one, it's going to be Mansions of Madness 2nd edition. I think this one really, I don't know if, I think it kind of brought me around to horror. And again, I don't really recognize it as such while I'm playing it, but this one was fantastic. The app really brought this game to life in a way that I'd never seen anything do before. There was a couple of app games before this that weren't very good. And then this one came out and was like, oh, this is how it should be. This is perfect. It takes care of a lot of the overhead and the really cool parts of the game, like the puzzles and stuff that you have to figure out. Now they're on an app. So you just take it on the app. It's so cool. This game really feels like exploring to me. Like you have this concept of a house that you're going through or a town that you're going through or whatever, depending upon the scenario, and it unfolds before you and you don't know what's behind the doors. You don't really know what's out there to see. It's really enjoyable. I think it's dripping with the theme as far as, basically just trying to stay alive and beat the thing that's going to destroy the earth. I think it's fantastic. And the app really makes it sing. That's my number one. Arkham, nope. Mansions of Madness, second edition.
It's funny that it seems like that game has shown up a few lists we've made these days, and every time I'm not really that big on co-ops actually. But
also a co-op, of course.
Yeah, but that is one that I would like to play. I actually, I think it probably is. I'm not so big on co-ops because of my group. Actually, they don't enjoy it, so I don't enjoy playing it with them. Probably if I was playing a co-op with you all, I'd love it. Actually, we played Viticulture World together, and we had a great time. So
that's true.
All right. Well, so when I started thinking about horror-themed games, there's one that came to mind right away for me. So that's going to be my number one. But I'm going to start with my number two, actually, because my number two is actually a little bit outside the box and also a very controversial game. In fact, this was one of those early Kickstarter controversies about the game, and it's because of the theme of the game, not like the publisher sucks or something like that, right? And this game is called Tomorrow. And Tomorrow is, I guess you would call it semi-co-op, because there's basically either everybody loses, the game beats all of you, or there is one winner. So there's no sort of co-op win condition. And what it is basically the world is overpopulated and you are a country and you have population markers, little wooden pawns or whatever. And you have cards and you have military, etc. And basically in order to win the game, the population of the earth has to be reduced below a threshold. So you basically have to kill off a large portion of the population of the earth. And hey, you get points if it's not your people that get killed off. And by the way, you have nukes. And nukes, great way to remove people, but it also sort of moves the economic collapse indicator the other way, the one that you're trying to get under control. And so a lot of people there was a bit of controversy around this game solely because of the theme, because the theme is horrific. The whole point of this game is you've got to kill population. And by the way, it's not your population, it's other people's population that you want to kill. And there's nukes and everything. And so it's this really dark theme. And this game does not play well for every group because you can't, you look at the board and China has a ton of population, right? So everybody could just start picking on China and taking out the China population, spreading biological viruses that are going to bleed over into India, which, hey, there's a lot of population there too, right? You could do that and everybody targets those people, but now those people are back against the wall and they can basically throw the game, right? They can start throwing nukes around and things like that because, hey, everybody's picking on them. And so some people get that wrong. They're like, well, they're just throwing the game because they can't win. It's like, no, you backed them into a corner. Right? What were you doing? This is the kind of game where you sort of have to make everybody think they have a chance to win so that they're not going to, just go nuclear, literally. Well, not literally, but in the gameplay terms, literally. So it's got all these interesting mechanisms going on. And so you've got to have the right group dynamic here, right? You got to have people that understand, but it's a meme game and the theme is dark, but maybe that's commentary on me that I really enjoy it. But I can't remember another game that gave me that same gameplay experience. And maybe not, that's not a traditional horror theme, but it's a pretty horrific theme. So I guess that was close enough for me to make that my first pick. Have you all heard of this game?
No, that sounds amazing though. It almost gives me like mafia vibes where you like kill somebody and they get mad and then like, well, you killed me. That sounds just like that though, except for the theme different. But yeah, I could see like breaking up friends groups because of that.
Yeah, but I mean, you literally have to be killing each other's population, otherwise nobody can win. So, yeah, it's an interesting game, and I don't think it's in print anymore. That was Conquistador Games, maybe, which sort of folded up shop and got reborn under a different name, different company name, and I'm not sure they have Tomorrow under that umbrella. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think the game did very well, but yeah, I think it's an interesting game from a gameplay, game designer perspective. And yeah, if you have the right group, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, there's one group I would play with, and they pick on me anyway because I'm the one that brings the game. So they would just, whatever I was, it would be like some Indonesia or something. They'd still probably try to kill me. So.
Yeah. All right. So that was a little bit obscure, but I really, my brain went there because, well, I have strong memories of playing this game and the stories around playing this game. And like I said, the theme is there for me. So, all right, cool. I guess that was my number 2, but I'll just go ahead and move on to my number 1 then. My number 1 is totally on the opposite end of the spectrum. It is a fully co-op game, and it's for kids, and it's Legacy, and it is called Zombie Kidz Evolution. So in this game, basically you're a bunch of kids at a high school, and you are trying to lock the 4 different gates to keep the zombies out who are invading the high school. And so you have to beat up on the zombies that are in there and get all the gates locked. And it's a legacy game. So you finish the game, you unlock stuff, you unlock characters and abilities, and the zombies get special abilities, and everything changes. We also played the follow-on to it called Zombie Teens Evolution, which is also good, but my kids didn't like it as much as the first one. I think something about that first game was it was the right place and the right time, right? It was this very simple kids legacy game that came out right at the time period that my kids were the right age for that game, and we played it, and, there's that, well, even now today, I guess there's the whole, hey, one more turn, let me unlock one more thing. But there's something about kids at that specific age, right? Where, ooh, I just got a new character. Ooh, I just got a new, let's play again. Let's do the thing, right? Let's get some more stars so we can unlock the next thing. And so my kids were just dying to play this game over and over and over. And because of their enjoyment of it, I really enjoyed it. I mean, I wouldn't say you wouldn't play this game with just a bunch of adults, right? But with kids, it's a great game, and it is a horror theme, right? I mean, it's kid horror because obviously it's a game made for kids. So we're not talking about zombies with their brains falling on their head, chewing on your face or anything. But they are zombies, and they are invading the school, and you have to defend it. So yeah, if you have kids, somewhere in that maybe 5, 6, 7, 8, somewhere around their age. Depending on how they are as gamers or whatever, I would say check this out. This is, I guess, the first legacy game I played with my kids, and they, really enjoyed it. So there you go, Zombie Kidz Evolution.
Sounds interesting. I know that theme a lot in anime, especially the zombie teen version, but not for kids.
Yeah, there's a lot of not for kids versions of that theme for sure. All right, cool. Well, all right. JJ, why don't you tell us what your second pick is?
Okay. Once again, did not need to go to the judges because it was on Board Game Geek under horror. It's very good game, I think, for a large group. Plays up to 8 people, which is very rare, and it actually moves pretty quickly. Even though you're at 8 people, you can get through the game in like 30, 45 minutes, so it's a good filler game. Very good horror theme. Hidden player, very much like the Resistance and Coup type thing. You have good guys and bad guys. In this case, it is Shadow Hunters, which is the name of the game. You have the Shadows, which are like werewolves, vampires, Valkyries, and like just bad people. And you got the Hunters that are trying to kill the Shadows, and you actually have neutral people. So the game is great because you're moving around to different areas, getting weapons and having abilities and spells and that kind of thing around a little board. There's not a whole lot of movement. There's just like different areas where you can get cards. and you have 8 people. Don't know who the other people are. You don't know if they're on your team or not. So you just kept like randomly shooting people. Some of the cards that you peek at their characters, see what they have. But it's just great 8-player fun game, hidden agenda. There's not really too much into it. It's a really simple game. You move and you pick up a card and play a card. It's very much the trick taking thing. We just draw a card, play a card, secret love letter type thing. That's one reason why I liked it, because it plays 8 people and it's just really simple. All it is a board and some cards, and that's it. So if you like the hidden agenda, big group feel, you have a big group and you need like a filler game, Shadowhunters, especially in my group, and then I brought it to a different group. We usually end up playing it because nobody wants to separate into 2 different groups and play board games for some reason. So you can get 8 people in there, and then the people that don't play board games a lot, really good beginner game because they understand the whole point of drawing a card, playing a card. Some of the rules are a little bit different, but yeah, you get the same thing as the game you mentioned, Steven, tomorrow, because it's like, why are you attacking me? I'm on your team. And, it's like resistance and everything like that. You get that whole fight thing going on, and then you reveal it and like they were on your team. And you find out you're the last person left on your team because of how the probability works. And it's like, I just spent the whole time trying to kill you, and you're on my team. So that part I like a lot because you have no idea how it goes. And I will tell this funny story. This one time, my friend really wanted to play. And in the first round, he went last, and everybody ended up killing him before his first turn came up. So we still. It's bad. I'm laughing at him because it was so funny because we talk about that all the time now after that, because it was just great. Because he's like, I want to play. And then he was on his phone. And I'm like, and I went first. So I'm like, you want to play this game, but you're on your phone playing another game. And I was like, nope, I don't like that. So I'm like, I'm going to kill you. And then everybody just kind of piled on. And by the time he looked up from his phone and like, you're dead, man. He's like, oh, he just went in the corner and played the game, played on his phone. So yeah, so I like to tell that story, but great game for that. Shadowhunters, really easy to play, horror themed.
So how long does that take to play typically?
About 35. Once everybody knows the rules, because my groups, there's usually a beginner board gamer, but if everybody plays board games, and especially if you, after one time you play it, then it just goes fast because you're drawing a card, playing a card. The only thing that really takes time is if somebody has like, what's the choice thing where people can't decide, they have too many decisions.
Analysis paralysis.
There you go. We made a podcast about that. I don't know if that came out yet, but anyways, analysis paralysis or the rulings. The rulings get kind of funky a little bit with people that don't play. But if everybody plays, you can, even with 8 people, you can get through the game in like 30, 45 minutes. So it's really, really simple.
Oh, cool. That's in my wheelhouse, right? 8-player game that plays in 45 minutes. Yeah, cool.
There you go.
I have played that. It's a little chaotic for my taste.
Chaotic? What does that
Well,
mean?
see, now I'm extra interested.
What does that mean?
No, because really, you can get killed before it's your turn. And this isn't something where you still have a function. You're just done. We played a game one time where the guy got killed in the first 5 minutes. He walked by 40 minutes later, and we were like, hey, you won. True story.
Yeah. There's the one where you, if somebody else wins, you win, and then it's like you're the, yeah. I know what you're talking about. So,
but it is short, so I give you that.
Yeah, just play again.
Yeah, player elimination is okay in a short game, my opinion. All right, cool. Well, Erock, why don't you tell us what your other pick for horror is?
Absolutely. So my second pick for this category, it might even be my favorite of the 2 games, as far as just straight gameplay goes. But so my second pick is Arkham Horror, the card game. I've had a lot of fun playing that game. It really impresses me how much game is in there. Really, it's a dice and card game, really. Except instead of using dice, they give you a bag, and you put tokens in a bag. And when it's some time to find out, instead of rolling a die, you draw the stuff out of the bag. And I think that's fantastic. This game gets a lot of heat for that, but I think it's fantastic because you can totally modify the dice by putting things in and taking things out of the bag. So depending upon what the scenario calls for, or even to tweak the difficulty to your own level, you can mess with the bag. If this was dice, you'd need like 100 dice to take into consideration all the different possibilities. Probably more than that, probably thousands of dice, because there's a lot of tokens that you can put in and take out of this bag. It really changes the probabilities and all the different things that go on. I got sidetracked a little bit on the dice bag because I think it's fantastic, but really this is an Arkham Horror game all the way. There's a threat of the impending old one that's going to destroy the world, and you go through a series of, I guess it's a campaign, really. You play a series of adventures that take you through like different places. Like maybe you start in a house and you go through that and you find things and you fight things. And then maybe you go to a town, and then in the town, you'll go to different locations in the town and fight things and stuff like that. But basically it kind of unfolds like that, like a story. You can absolutely win or lose it as far as it goes. I'm going to tell a very short story here.
Well,
So
did you say the name of the game?
Yep, Arkham Horror, the card game.
The card game, but it's not a bag builder. You just build the
No, there's
dice
just
bag
one bag
and then,
that you use instead of rolling dice, right? So like when something happens, it's like, well, what's going to happen? Then you just, oh, it was a bad thing. Exactly. It's not a bag builder. Exactly. In fact, it's kind of a deck builder. It's not an in-game deck builder per se, but it's like a magic kind of deck builder where you build your deck for your character before you go into the next adventure. It makes it really cool because you can adapt to what's going on, as the story unfolds, and you get like maybe more powerful cards, or this combo's not really working that well. So you put different things in your deck and it changes what you have for your character to be able to do, which really gives you a lot of control over that. They already come with a whole lot of different kind of character types, and they're archetypes. There's like strong guy with a bat. There's I don't know, sexy lady librarian. You know what I'm saying?
Professor.
Like all of the archetypes that are there for your horror stuff, but they all have wildly different like skill sets. One might be like a brute straight up, like just beats things up and takes a lot of damage, and another one does like mind damage, but it's really frail. So you work on these decks, and it helps you kind of hone out your skill set, and also to work better with your group. So without getting too much into it as far as it goes, I really enjoy that game. It's really very much an Arkham Horror style game, the way it plays through. And I love the deck building that goes into playing the character. And I love the bag that substitutes as a bunch of dice to determine what happens when events go down. So Arkham Horror and the card game, highly recommend.
Nice. This is the Fantasy Flight LCG, right?
Yeah, LCG. And yeah, I'm like anti CCGs, but I'm okay with LCGs because you don't have to go fishing for stuff.
Yeah,
it's
nice
still pain because you got to sink a ton of money in to get like a whole chapter of something. But at the end of the day, you know exactly what you're getting. I'm buying this set to run this mission. It's going to have these cards in it. There's no mystery. So
yeah, a lot of LCGs are dead, but this one is actually still alive, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
You forget about Marvel Champions, another FFG.
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah, but there's a big graveyard full of dead LCGs, man. But this one's still alive. All right.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them.
Just a quick side note. I've heard that it is incredibly similar to the Lord of the Rings one that kind of predates this. Like, obviously, one of them's all Lord of the Rings and one of them's all Cthulhu stuff. But I haven't played a lot of the Lord of the Ring one, so I really can't say that. But there are people out there who probably have played one and not the other one. So if you enjoy Lord of the Rings LCG, Arkham Horror is fantastic. Highly recommend.
Nice. Cool. You know how they have weird Lord of the Rings games that are sometimes themed on the book and sometimes they're themed on the movie?
Yes.
Yeah, I was reading like a History of TSR book, and it talked about how that's because the Lord of the Rings IP is owned by two different entities. One has like the movie IP and one has like the book IP.
Yeah, it's weird.
That happens with superhero stuff all the time too. So,
I wouldn't know. Superheroes. All right. Well, before we pile on Steve, let's hear Tiffany's final pick.
All right. So my final pick is what I think is a far superior game to my first pick. But for nostalgia reasons, I had to go in the order that I did. With this game, there are going to be a lot of people that disagree with me. It did not do well in our poll that we did, the game that I'm going to say, but I just think it's a better game. And there are a lot of reasons I think it's better. And then when I say the name, you're going to be like, oh, that. Yeah. And I'm going to be like, yeah, that. So it may be overproduced. It may be super long. It may be a novel in the disguise of a board game, but my father's work is such a phenomenal horror game that I just would not be fair to myself or the world of board gaming if I didn't bring it up and make it and say that it's my second favorite. It's overproduced, so it's absolutely beautiful. And everybody knows that I'm a big sucker for gorgeous components. We even we upped ours by filling the vials with different like craft substances, and so even, like our components are even better now. But it's such a great game. It's a Euro game. You're doing worker placement, but you're basically trying to complete your father's or your grandfather's or your great grandfather's work by doing this generational game. That looks at a mad scientist, and your father's work was started, and you have to perform these experiments, and you have to get your spouse and your henchmen to do your bidding. You have to balance how creepy your family looks to the outside world with how much you're able to get done so that you don't appear too creepy. If you start to be too weird and too creepy, then you can't go into town anymore until you go to church and get your soul saved so that you can like be normal again and go back to town. So it's such a great game. It's a solid game. There is a lot of strategic thinking there and a lot of decisions that you have to make that are really interesting. And it's a really fun game. I love anything where I love worker placements and trying to work on building my engine as I go. So I love it, but it's just beautiful to look at, and it's a great way to spend 3 hours with your friends. It's maybe not great. Yeah, 3 hours if you're playing 3-player. If you're playing 4-player, probably don't, unless you've got all day. 3-player is going to take you 3.5 hours. 2 players is probably going to take you almost that. So, but it's a lot of it. So if you're going to have a gaming weekend or a day where you really want to get something beautiful to the table and you want to make an epic experience out of it, I can't think of many more epic experiences than being able to run 4 generations of a family, do all of these kinds of crazy experiments and just create weird things that you're trying to research and do. And then having your ultimate experiment pay off at the end to see if you can actually get this epic thing done at the end that you want to get done. What kind of weird monster you're trying to build, or what superhuman power you're trying to inject into your specimen. So, whatever you want to do, like you get to take 3 hours with your friends to see if you're going to be able to do it. And it's a great game. And I'm not afraid of long games, as we all know. I often complain that games aren't long enough. So this one checks like all my weird boxes.
Nice. JJ, you're a fan too?
I don't know. I put a couple of videos out. I'm pretty sure they're on somewhere on YouTube that people can go and check out. I just I don't have the fancy vials yet. I want to get the glow in the dark stuff to make it really fancy. But yeah, I got some comments and opinions about the game.
Indeed. Yeah, I really like it too. This was not something I had any interest in at all. I saw the Kickstarter and I was like, yeah, that's just not for me. Because like I said, I'm just not a huge fan of horror. So, but, we kind of went in the store one day and Babe saw it. She's like, oh, we have to get that. I was like, okay, and it's really fun. It's really long. It is. The worker placement part is not difficult. It's a fairly straightforward worker placement game, but the app is just full of story. I do think hasn't happened yet, but I do think it would get a lot faster if you played it a lot, because a lot of what the app is doing, you could kind of skip through. You'd be like, oh yeah, remember they went to the town and they did the thing, skip, the more you'd play it. Now it has a branching narrative, which I think is fantastic. So there are going to be times even then when you're like, oh, we've never seen this part before, but you'd still you're going to run into the beginnings of a lot of things a lot of times. So I think that as you play, you're going to be able to kind of speed this up a lot. But it is thoroughly immersive. It feels really awesome. Like you're really enveloped in this world when you play this game. It's really cool.
So yeah, the mobile app came out many moons ago, and then now the web browser website is up. So hopefully they fix the speaking parts and it talks to you more, because it's great when it starts out that way and then it just cuts off. It's like, what the okay. But yeah, if you're able to like press fast forward on that and then just kind of skip those parts or something. Also, I already said this in the video, but you can't hit back. Make a decision, you can't hit back. So hopefully they fix that with the website. But yeah, that's it.
All right, cool. Well, we also have a couple of people's picks, but before I get there, I did also want to mention, there were some games that I thought about, and then ultimately I decided not for this video. So like Robinson Crusoe.
That's not really horror.
I mean, there are some horror themed expansions and scenarios,
right.
But it's more of a survival game.
But it's not fundamentally a horror game, right?
Yeah, right. So I had thought about it. I thought about it. And the same thing with Not Alone, right? This idea that you're a bunch of scientists trying to not driven mad by this creature. I think thematically it's pretty strong, but it's more like suspense or something. I don't know. Maybe it could have fit here.
I guess like sci-fi horror. It depends on who the director would be.
Yeah. I mean, I would say I like both of those games better than I like the game Tomorrow, but I picked Tomorrow because it's just an off the wall pick that you needed to hear about, basically. I
just want to say, if the object of this is to pick games that nobody's ever heard of before, then game on, man. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, no, we could do a video on games you've never heard of, and you get points if you've heard of them. But yeah, no. All right. Well, so the people's picks are not going to be surprises. And the first one, in fact, is I lumped them together in the poll. So it was Arkham Horror, Eldritch Horror, all series. So that includes Arkham Horror, the living card game. So, but I will throw it over to Erock to talk a little bit about the Arkham Horror board game, because I think that or Eldritch Horror is what people were probably voting for.
Yeah, I agree. That's probably the one that would have won out if they had been split, probably. It's been around for a long time. At this point, we're on Arkham Horror, the board game 3rd edition. So it's been quite a while. 2nd edition went strong for years. I can remember when I first got into the hobby, like 20 years ago or whatever, Arkham Horror was around, and it's still around with a brand new version going on.
Yeah, the first one was like 1981 or something.
Yeah, for real. So, I'm not a big fan of the earlier versions. I think I played one time. I played 2 a number of times, and I haven't played 3 as much, but I had problems with 2. There were some parts of it where you just it just dragged on. It just went on way too long with no real reason. It just kind of put people in loops and punished you for things. And that's just the way that game was. But I think the 3rd edition was fantastic when we played it. I think they incorporated a lot of what they learned when they made the card game, and they integrated into the board game so that it tells a concise story, and it also, gives you a kind of a streamlined experience over the previous versions, which is fantastic. You know what I'm saying? Now, I'm not saying it's easy. We lost handily the last time we played, but we had a lot of fun doing it, and we felt like we were making a difference in the game, which I feel like in the previous versions, sometimes you don't feel that way. You just feel like this game's just taken over at this point. And, and there definitely was a point in the game where it was like, yeah, we're going to lose probably here. But we still felt like it was our own choices and what we did that got us up to that point. It wasn't like it was just a runaway train and there was nothing we could do about it from the very beginning. We got crushed. But it was also like, well, now we know better kind of a thing. So I feel like, and we enjoyed the story. We enjoyed the journey along the way because it was taking you in a different way than the older versions of this did. Now, I'm kind of intentionally leaving out all the other things. I've never actually played Eldritch Horror. I've heard it's basically the same. It's just the world instead of, a house or a town rather. But,
Yeah, you play in the world. I haven't played any expansions, but I have the base game. The biggest thing is there's no sheriff. And when you destroy the portals, you can't use them as currency, which I thought was, because I played Arkham before I got Eldritch. That was a big flaw for me. It's like, what's the point of whatever? You just put them back in the stack and it's like, I can't get anything from them. So that was my two biggest like gripes between the two versions. But
indeed, before this last one, I would have said the card game is by far the better game, by far. But this last one is really good. Like it almost made my list. So
I played the original Arkham Horror as a kid, and that was sort of a mind blown experience because you can play a board game solo. Like wow, right. That was amazing. There weren't a lot of solo. I mean, there weren't a lot of solo games back then, by the way. You had like solo card games like Solitaire or whatever, I guess. But yeah, not a lot of solo board games. And then I played a newer version, I think the most recent version of Arkham Horror, one of our game nights, or maybe it was second edition. I can't remember now, but we were playing for close to 2 hours and we were like about to win and an event happened or something and it just screwed everything up. And we're all looking at each other and we're like, we went from being this close to winning to realizing, well, now we're like halfway through the game. And we all just looked at each other and we're like, well, that was fun, and backed it up and put it away. We were 2 hours in and we didn't want to do another 2 hours of the game. It just hit it over. It was overstaying its welcome, essentially. I mean, games
2 hours,
right?
2 hours. I've been at 6 hours and we're like, we're not even close. It's like, all right.
Yeah, I've played some really long versions of second edition, man. Some really long game nights of that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It overstays its welcome, and we were just all smart enough to put it away instead.
Yeah, I think you won.
Yeah, I put Cthulhu back in his box. I win. All right. Well, that is the people's choice, the far ahead leader, number one in the poll. And the rest of it was pretty close, but ultimately, the people's second choice is basically that Erock is the people because it was Mansions of Madness second edition. I think technically it was probably any edition, but second edition is, I think, what people talk about now. So he's already talked about it. If horror is not your theme, but the game sounded interesting to you anyway, there is also a Lord of the Rings version that uses a very similar, mechanisms with the app and everything. So, check that one out. We've talked about these games on the channel before, and they did come up really big. Mansions of Madness, I think, came up really big in our People's Choice poll there at the end of the top 25 that we did in December. I think that was in there somewhere. So anyway, well, there you go. There's a bunch of horror themed games. Any other games that you all discounted?
Yep. Actually, I wanted to put a shout out and kind of an RIP out there. And this is for Dead of Winter. I loved Dead of Winter. I couldn't wait to get it to the table. Some of my best board game memories are playing Dead of Winter back in the day. I don't want to play it anymore. Thank you, Dead of Winter, but I'm done.
I will tell you that one of the flaws to me of many games is that when I get a game, I will play it at its max player count because I probably got it for that. Do not play Dead of Winter at 5 or probably even 4.
Which we always played at 5. Always.
Yeah.
I always played at 5.
Yeah. I played it one time with 2 people and I was like, oh, now I see why people like this game. Right. Okay. But I did not enjoy it at all at the 4 or 5 player count. I don't think I've played with 3, but anyway, so it's got some interesting stuff going on. It is an interesting game, but I wouldn't play it maybe.
That's the first time we RIP'd a game. You killed
I will say I had an honorable mention.
Yeah, do it.
One of my honorable mention was Terra, which I discovered when I was at. Yeah, when I discovered when I was at, oh God, I don't even remember what convention I was at, but it was introduced to me and I love the idea of a dungeon crawl, and the pieces are actually fluorescent or blacklight reactant, So if you've got like a black light source, then you can like turn off the lights and shine the light on the board. And then when you take the light away, you can still see the board illuminated. And it's super creepy. If you play like in the dark with the glowingness, like it's a really creepy game. I think it's a lot of fun as far as like a horror theme. Like, oh gosh, this is like what's going to be around the next corner. I don't know if we can tackle it. Like, let's just hope we get out of here alive. So it's a lot of fun. Not quite good enough to be my top 2, but Terra is a great game.
Nice. How about you, JJ? You got any other games you want to shout out?
Sure. Unmatched was one of my things. It's still a horror game because you got Dracula and the Invisible Man, and then you can mix the Marvel version in there and just mix it all together. So if you like fighting games, you can put all the different stuff together. Then there you go. You can recreate the Batman versus Dracula movie.
Yeah, if you want any of that.
Not Batman. Why did I say Batman? I got my universes. Oh no, I'm losing my credit. Oh God. Marvel version. Moon Knight. There you go. You can put Moon Knight versus Dracula. It's close.
Okay.
Just go with it. You don't know. Just go with it.
And if you want to do campy, like universal horror monsters, there's also the Horrified series, right? So there are plenty of horror themed games out there. So I just want to give that a shout out because Lloyd did a bunch of videos on those.
Yeah, he would have, I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't know what his picks would have been, but he does like those Horrified games.
You can see a whole couple of what he did, a series of them kind of on the horror.
Well, he did a Horrified versus Horrified American Monsters, so you can see about both the games in one video right there.
Yeah.
Maybe I should link that here somewhere. No. Okay.
Right.
All right, but there you go. There's a bunch of horror themed games. If you think we missed anything, come tell us in the comments here in the YouTube video, or look in the description below. We have a Discord channel. We chat in there every day about board game stuff. So come join us over there. Tell us your thoughts on some horror themed games. If you look in the description, there's also links to all of our social media. So you can follow us any of those places. But if you like the video, like, share, and subscribe. That does help us out as well. But until the next time, we've been gaming through themes. We are Just Got Played, and thanks for joining us.
Bye. See you next time.